What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to the Week 3 NFL Power Rankings. We are going to get right into it here. Quick reminder, though, if you want to support the channel in an easy way, please do hit that like button down below and tell your friends and family about this video if you think they would enjoy. Let's get right into it, starting at the bottom with the New York Jets, 32nd in the league. The dumpster fire continues here. I'm a little surprised they're letting Adam Gase return to the facilities this week. It was just a disaster. The play calling was awful. They ran the ball right up the middle with a 30,000-year-old Frank Gore for seemingly 1 or 2 yards on every second down. There's no talent here on offense. Mekhi Becton, the rookie, might be their best offensive player right now. It's just awful. And they're not even tackling well on the defensive side of the ball. This is awful. I mean, we're not even really getting a fair crack at evaluating Sam Darnold here in year 3. Then we have inner city here. The New York Giants are going to stay put at 31. Daniel Jones, again, bad turnovers this week. Wasn't good enough to rally and score even 20 points to beat the Bears. The Giants' defense lacks talent. This team is just kind of stuck in rebuild permanently, it seems. I predicted this Giants team to go 1-15. I got a lot of flack for that, and I don't know if they're going to win more than one game this year. Then we have the Miami Dolphins staying put at 30 as well, so no movement in the bottom 3. It's a scrappy team. They put up a good fight against the Bills, but ultimately the talent of the Buffalo Bills overtook them and they lost. I mean, that's really the moral of the story with the Dolphins. Their offensive line stinks. They don't have enough playmakers. Their defense is young and inexperienced, and it's just not a good enough roster right now to compete. I'm going to end up saying that a lot this year, I think. And then we have the Washington football team at 29. Same kind of story here. This is what we talked about with Sam Darnold. I mean, as far as Dwayne Haskins goes, I like Dwayne Haskins, but I had very low expectations this year because you've got a defensive head coach here and an offense that has a terrible offensive line and no playmakers outside of Terry McLaurin. There's just not a lot to work with here. It showed this week. They could not move the ball against the Cardinals defense that is far from terrifying. So while I love the pass rush here and some of these young defenders across the board, it's just going to be tough to win when you can't move the ball. Then we have the Carolina Panthers, who are kind of the inverse of their former head coach's team that we just talked about with the Washington football team. All offense and no defense. The offense wasn't quite as good this week against a better defense in Tampa Bay. They put up a fight. Christian McCaffrey, their best offensive player, is going to be out here for the next 4 to 6 weeks, which will hurt them. But I do expect them to still be able to move the ball all right and hopefully can continue to grow with that incredibly young defense. Then we have the Denver Broncos. Rough week. I mean, I'm pouring one out for you Broncos fans. Not a great week to be alive for the Broncos fans. Hang in there. I think there's brighter things on the horizon, but this just doesn't seem like it's going to be the Broncos' year. They've now lost pretty much every important player for this team's upside. Von Miller went down before the season started. Courtland Sutton, their best receiver, is now done for the season. Drew Lock is going to miss the next couple of months. They're leaning on now Driscoll at quarterback. Yikes, man. It's just not the Broncos' year. Then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who continue to be that underdog team that is not going to be an easy out. I don't know how many games this team will end up winning, but I know Gardner Minshew is going to keep this team in the majority of their games. And the last thing I will say here, and it could have led to a further climb for them, but they really should have beaten the Titans. They gave up a really dumb field goal before half. There was a pretty bad pass interference call that set up the go-ahead field goal for the Titans. That's a 6-point swing in a game that this team lost by 3 points on just a couple really stupid plays. They squibbed it before half, and the Titans were already in field goal range. Just a poor coaching decision, but all in all, this team can really move the ball on offense. The defense is a problem. We knew that was going to be the case, but Gardner Minshew basically not single-handedly doing it, but really trying to make a case for being this team's quarterback of the future, and he's doing a really good job of that so far. Then talk about quarterbacks of the future. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to move up one spot here strictly on the promise of Joe Burrow alone. This is very similar, I think, to what we saw from the Arizona Cardinals last year, where Kyler came into the team that picked number 1 overall, and all of a sudden they were competing against most of the teams in the NFL and were covering the spread a lot. That is a sign of a game-changing quarterback. Joe Burrow was the golden example of that on Thursday Night Football. If you haven't watched my film room of him yet, I encourage you doing so. Really in the second half of his first game, he started to show some of that brilliance, and it really carried over against the Browns on Thursday night, despite him having just a miserable offensive line. I really wish the Bengals would have used some of those mid-round picks on some of the better linemen in this class that were available. Guys like Josh Jones, Matt Peart, Matt Hennessy, all would have been great picks, but here we are sitting with a terrible offensive line for the Bengals, but they are going to climb up because Joe Burrow is just that good, and that is going to conclude the bottom tier here of teams that really are kind of out of the picture here, and climbing into teams that just have a ton to figure out before they can really get into any sort of playoff conversation in my mind, and that's going to start with the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm really glad that I did not hesitate to drop them a bunch last week. They dropped 8 spots, and some people thought I was overreacting to week 1. And just by the eye test, this is a terrible defense. This is an offense that I think is built really awkwardly. You have Kirk Cousins, who can't move with a bad offensive line in front of him. And basically, all of your receivers here are slot guys. I get Adam Thielen can play outside a little bit, but man, you got Jefferson, Sharp, BC Johnson, and Thielen. They're all slot receivers at their best. I don't understand the roster construction of this team. I think Zimmer's really struggling to put things together. The play calling has not been as good as it was last year either. Everything is falling apart here. They should get Danielle Hunter back soon-ish, which might help the defense out. Anthony Barr is out for the year now, however. But yeah, I am happy I dropped them as far as I did last week because I think 24 is the right spot here, which makes them dead last in the NFC North, where I do believe they belong right now. It seems that the all-in window from a couple years ago is really catching up to the Vikings right now, and they are dangerously close to entering a full rebuild here in 2020 and beyond. Then staying in the NFC North with the Detroit Lions, they're going to drop down a spot. They lose this week. The defense just is a problem here, which makes Matt Patricia a problem. This is year 3. He was supposed to fix this defense. He's not doing what Belichick does by manufacturing pass rush. Turns out overpaying Trey Flowers isn't alone going to get some pressure for you. Jeff Okudah was a train wreck in his debut. I'm sure he'll be fine as things go on, but he was supposed to be a day 1 replacement. That is not the case. Just the defense is a mess. Matthew Stafford without Kenny Golladay can only do so much. I do feel bad for him. I don't think he's an elite Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson type of guy. I think this team would be winning games if he was, but if they could just give him some more help, I think this Lions team would be very legit. Then we have the Cleveland Browns, who are going to climb up 3 spots here. Please forgive the typo. It's 1:30 in the morning here. They were 25 last week. Now they're 22. That is +3. But anyway, a really impressive performance from this offense. Good to see Odell Beckham going here. Probably his best game as a Brown, really showing what he can do off of play action when he gets those one-on-one matchups in this offense. So if they can build off of just that connection between Baker's deep ball ability and Odell's ability to just shatter a one-on-one corner, the Browns are going to be in business. Defensively, you've got some question marks, especially in that secondary. I don't know why Andrew Sendejo is still starting at free safety for them. Go get Earl Thomas, Cleveland. It's going to give you a legitimate playoff chance here and improve this defense right away. But overall, a good week for the Browns. It was against a pretty weak Bengals defense. Let's see them continue to get this thing going, but definitely a promising game for the Browns. Then the Chicago Bears are going to stay put at 21. Bears fans are going to want to climb up here. They are 2-0, but beating the Lions and the Giants barely is not a ringing endorsement for this team. I do think they're a very good football team. Really good defense. This defense looks much more like the 2018 version, and Mitch Trubisky looks more like the 2018 Mitch Trubisky. In fact, he actually looks like he's playing his best football. And if that continues, granted it was against a terrible Giants defense, if Trubisky can continue to play well, he had a really good first half in this game especially, the Bears are going to be more intimidating. But until that can be proven over the course of time, and frankly over the course of 4 quarters in a game, I'm not going to be really scared of the Bears' offense. Then we have the Chargers. They are going to move up 3 spots. Justin Herbert looked really good in his first start, surprising myself and many others. I did not think that was a good pick, but as I always say, every quarterback enters the NFL with a clean slate for me. They will get a fair evaluation. The interception that he threw over the middle was certainly something that we saw in his college tape, and I was going after Herbert on Twitter. People immediately thought that I was just ignoring the rest of the game. Look, he played well, but that mistake he made is something that was the biggest criticism of Justin Herbert, and that is when the play breaks down, he is incredibly sporadic and unpredictable, very similar to the quarterback we just talked about at 21 with Mitchell Trubisky. So you don't like to see that showing up in his first start, but overall he did a much better job reading defenses, being accurate. So a promising first start for Justin Herbert. Now, if Anthony Lynn plays Tyrod Taylor this week, I'm sorry, I like Tyrod Taylor, but come on, that is a fireable offense. He's backing Tyrod Taylor right now. You get a prime opportunity to inspire confidence in your young quarterback that frankly needs a little bit of a confidence boost against the Panthers defense that might be the worst in the NFL. That would be an all-time horrendous coaching decision that should be a fireable offense in my opinion. So get your head out of your ass, Anthony Lynn, and play Justin Herbert this week. Don't make that mistake. Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles getting a similar drop to what the Minnesota Vikings got last week. They got a little bit of slack week 1 because of all of the injuries, a lot of them short notice. They were kind of caught off guard, and even in that game, they looked really good in the first half. Well, this was just an ass kicking by the LA Rams, and Carson Wentz continues to really struggle, which is obviously the biggest concern here. I've historically really backed Carson Wentz, and he's historically kind of proved me right a lot of the times. But man, he doesn't look like the same Carson Wentz to me, and that is a major problem. So something to monitor moving forward. This is a team that just maybe has had too many injuries, but something I talked about a lot last year. At what point do we start putting Doug Peterson on the hot seat and potentially talking about, was that great coaching staff when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, was it really just Frank Reich and the surrounding core that was underneath? I don't know, man. I am really starting to sell my Eagles stock as fast as I possibly can right now because this is not looking good. I was really not impressed by the play calling last year, and it just continues. This team does not have any sort of continuity on either side of the ball right now. It's a major red flag. Same thing for the Houston Texans. I'm not quite in as big of panic mode as I am with the Eagles, but that's back-to-back weeks where Deshaun Watson has not been sharp. The offensive game plan here coming into the season was we want to get rid of the ball quicker. We want receivers that get open early. We're going to give you Randall Cobb. We're going to give you Brandon Cooks, and we want you to really execute this offense in a quicker, more thoughtful way, and it's just not happening. The Texans were actually in this game for the majority of it. They had some bad breaks, so I don't want to shred them. And they've opened against the Ravens and Chiefs. So I do think the Texans will turn it around as they hopefully get an easier schedule moving forward. They can hopefully weed out some of these coach, culture, continuity issues on both sides of the ball. Then we have the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to climb up 1 despite the catastrophic loss against the Cowboys. I mean, at the end of the day, they went into Dallas and should have won that game, scoring 39 points. This offense looks legit. Matt Ryan looks great. Calvin Ridley looks awesome. The Hayden Hurst trade is looking like a W. So that's all stuff that will help them continue to win moving forward. But gosh, Dan Quinn is supposed to be this defensive coach, and we've been talking about this for 2-3 years, and it's still the same thing. They're giving up 40 points in this game. The special teams collapse, not going after the onside kick. It's just more of the same here for the Atlanta Falcons. Then we have a tier gap up into the top half, and this next tier are teams that I can envision making the playoffs if just a couple things go right, whereas that last tier was like they got a lot to figure out. The Las Vegas Raiders, who I talked about last week. I was too low on them. Coming into the year, simply put, this offense is very good. The play calling is phenomenal under Gruden. They have such a nice bevy of playmakers, particularly in the short to intermediate game. Darren Waller is emerging as an elite mismatch problem that is going to continue to give defensive coordinators moving forward. Derek Carr was not particularly impressive to me. We know he's accurate, but I think this is the way to go. This style offense is how you're going to win with Derek Carr. It's going to give you an extremely high floor, and there's going to be weeks where when guys are creating after the catch and getting so open in the short to intermediate game as Darren Waller was, that's the kind of offense that Derek Carr can operate. So plus 4 more spots for the Raiders this week. And then the Colts are actually going to drop down 2 this week despite the win. Colts fans won't like that. Look, I don't fully trust Phillip Rivers right now. He seems to just be kind of recklessly throwing the ball. I don't like losing Paris Campbell and Amani Hooker in this game. Those are some pretty big losses. I do think Julian Blackmon, who looked good in this game, can step up, but that's still banking on a rookie safety to replace a really good free safety there in Malik Hooker with a ton of range. So while they picked up the win this week, this is much more about other teams impressing me more than the Colts, and the Vikings to me at this stage in the season are almost a free win. So good to get that first win out of the way, and I don't want to bang on Rivers. He looked good for the most part, and you got the run game going with Jonathan Taylor. It's still a very good football team, but I was frankly just more impressed by other teams. So that's the only reason they're truly moving down here. One of those teams impressing is the Arizona Cardinals, climbing up 3 spots. It's a rare case where a hype team does actually pay off, and typically that is a sign of a really good quarterback because you look at teams like Cleveland and especially in Denver. Granted, Drew Lock got hurt, but to meet these hype types of deals, you usually need a quarterback to play like Kyler Murray is right now, who's already playing at an MVP level, honestly, against 2 of the better defenses in the league off the start of the season. So really promising start. The defense is playing better here for Arizona, which you love to see. I'm excited to see, we had Andy Isabella get a deep pass this week. I think as this team faces worse pass rushes, as they naturally will moving forward, they've played 2 of the best in the league already. We're going to see a better offensive line matchups and them able to push the field vertically more and start to really see what Kyler has to offer in the vertical passing game consistently, which is really exciting. So the Cardinals are starting to open things up a lot, and certainly to me in the mix in that NFC West. Then we have the Tennessee Titans. They're going to go up 1. Ryan Tannehill probably didn't hear what I said, probably doesn't watch my power rankings, but I didn't think he looked particularly good last week. Well, he came out and looked just like 2019 Ryan Tannehill this week. Just did such a good job putting that ball vertically in a position for his really talented receivers to make plays. It's a healthy balance here between play calling, Tannehill having an underrated arm and vertical ball placement, and guys like Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis, even with A.J. Brown out in this game, to go make some really impressive plays this week. So to get that offense clicking again, without Derrick Henry's help, by the way, is certainly promising, getting the Titans back a little bit more towards the team they were last year, late in the season. So a big win for the Titans, who are 2-0. Then we have the New England Patriots plus 4. I'll eat my crow. I'm happy to see Cam Newton out here dominating, but I'll eat the crow. I was wrong. I did not think Cam Newton would be healthy, and I also underestimated the Patriots' ability to scheme up such a creative run game for Cam Newton, or at least underestimated their willingness to do so given his injury history. But overall, this has been beautiful. This is the best the Patriots' offense has looked in a couple years, and the defense just happened to run into Russell Wilson on fire this week. When you can just get that quarterback confidence that you have in Cam Newton, he looks accurate throwing the ball in the short to intermediate game, which is helping guys like Edelman and Bird and all these guys get going enough to have a passing game that complements their creative run game. As long as this offense can be top 20, we know Bill Belichick is going to continue to improve this defense, and they're going to be a playoff team. The question is, can they beat this Bills team that's going to rank next? They're going to stay put at 11. The Bills did really impress as a team this week. Granted, it was against the Miami Dolphins. People really focused in on me being critical again of Josh Allen. I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that I was about as high on Josh Allen as anyone in the draft community. I would love it if this is the Josh Allen that we get moving forward. I was really impressed by him coming out of Wyoming. You'll never be able to produce a clip of me critiquing his completion percentage, which was something getting thrown around on Twitter and the YouTube comments insinuating that I'm a Josh Allen hater because he finally had a good completion percentage last week. That's not what it is to me. It's similar to what I said about Lamar Jackson last year. It's similar to what we're talking about Justin Herbert this week. Guys get a blank slate when they come into the league. In his rookie season, he was incredibly inaccurate, and in his second season last year, he was terrible throwing the deep ball. Dramatically overthrew guys left and right. That stuff is on tape, and as Lamar Jackson has proved, which is not consistent with the history of this league, but I don't know if it's coaching or these quarterbacks are just able to have the resources to correct these things, but it seems accuracy is much more correctable these days than 10, 15 years ago, based on Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen here, who has been much more accurate through the first 2 weeks, especially vertically. And if that's clicking, we can really start talking about Josh Allen, because he does everything else so well. And he did show signs last year improving as a processor and his accuracy in the short to intermediate game. Guy's only 24 years old. So yes, I criticized Josh Allen last week for a pretty bad throw in the red zone, but that doesn't mean I'm not super excited that the script is starting to change here on the conversation with Josh Allen. And it's really exciting for the Bills, because I've been saying for almost 2 years now that this team's upside is going to come and go by what Josh Allen can look like as a quarterback. It's a huge season to see if he can take those steps forward, and so far he is checking those boxes. Now let's see him do it against a defense that isn't the Jets or the Dolphins. And the Dolphins were without Byron Jones in this game too, by the way, so don't give me that Jets have or Dolphins have a good secondary thing. Then we have the Tampa Bay Bucks. They're going to stay put after knocking off the Carolina Panthers. I said let's not panic last week, and I also said the Bucks would start slow. They also didn't have, to me, their best offensive player in Chris Godwin in this game, and they still looked really good. This defense is actually really solid as well. So they are still going to be in this kind of middling tier here as a team that still has a couple things to figure out before I'm ready to say they're a playoff team, but they're certainly going very well in that direction. And another good week will probably put them into this next tier here. So into the top 9, we have a new tier that is going to be started by the Dallas Cowboys. Kind of funny how these rankings can work sometimes. Last week they lost and went up. This week they're going to win and go down. This is ultimately just how impressive the Rams were for a second week in a row. But huge win for the Cowboys. I don't want that -1 to make it look like I have anything bad to say about the Cowboys. Well, I do. Their defense really, really stinks, and it's a problem. But when Dak Prescott can play like that and accurately throw the ball around the field, and these receivers can make the kinds of plays that they did this week, which, all three of these guys, Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb, all made critical chunk plays in the passing game. It all works together here, Dak and these receivers, but I think that's very much sustainable moving forward. So I beg Cowboys fans to not focus on the -1 there. It's just a matter of the Rams impressing. Then the Steelers, same thing. Rams just impressed me. The Steelers kind of scraped by a little bit against a Broncos team that's really reeling. But I will say this offense for the Steelers is really promising. Big Ben looks great. Again, please don't focus on the -1. The Steelers did impress me this week. But there is another team that just impressed me more, and that is the Rams, who just... You talk about the importance of coach and culture and a team being on the same page, and that is the Rams. They have come out and just reestablished what this offense does so well. The play action, the screens, the misdirection, coming out in simplified, similar looking packages, just so that this team can know what their responsibilities are, come out and play hard and fast. It's helping Jared Goff as well, who is clearly comfortable in this offense. Him and Aaron Rodgers, the only two quarterbacks without a turnover-worthy play so far this season. And again, defensively, between Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, they have a good modern defense that can step up and make some big plays when they need him. So really impressed by the Rams. Then we're going to have a tier gap up and stay in the NFC West to the San Francisco 49ers, who are going to drop down 2 spots this week. Injuries galore. And the question for me is How many injuries is too many injuries for Kyle Shanahan to sustain? The Nick Bosa thing alone is a big reason this team's going to drop. You lose your best defensive player this week, it's just going to decrease the ceiling of this defense. And I think that's perfectly fair. But besides that, Jimmy Garoppolo's out, Debo's out, or at least Jimmy's injured. Raheem Mostert, who looked incredible this week, is injured. George Kittle is injured. No Richard Sherman this week. It's just a lot to handle for the Niners, and they did win in a blowout for the Jets. That's why they're in this tier, this second tier of phenomenal football teams, and I'm not going to count them out, but at this point in time, it's a lot of injuries to overcome, and they're in a really tough division that they're going to have to really continue to impress. Then we have the New Orleans Saints. We're going to drop down 2 spots here. For my Patreon gang, I did actually pick the Raiders to win that game, so I was not surprised to see it. I think it's time to officially be worried about seeing basically postseason Drew Brees here in week 2. It's been a bit of a crutch for NFL fans and analysts alike for a while now, but it's true. I mean, Drew Brees, just at this stage in his career, can't push the ball vertically, and you don't get to play the Raiders defense every week either. This team has a lot of talent, but can they overcome the fact that this offense is going to exist within the 15-yard line? Now, that said, I actually am giving them a really good chance to come out and beat the number 4 team this week, which will be a big decider in where these guys are ranked next week, with the Green Bay Packers, who dunked on the Detroit Lions. I love that they showed that resiliency. This team clearly is not going to fold like that. They won a lot of close games last year. It's a very confident team. You have Aaron Rodgers in there. You know you can make a comeback like that, get your team back on track, and end up winning the game by 3 scores. Was really impressed by LaFleur's play calling in this game. Aaron Jones, what he did in this game was incredible. You don't want to overreact to beating the Lions, but this is a really cohesive team, and they're avoiding the injury bug at this point in time, which in this season is starting to look like a big deal. Then the Seattle Seahawks +2. I mean, Russell Wilson is getting dangerously close to being as good as Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if he'll actually pass him, but God, they're both incredibly similar. Russell Wilson is in the perfect offense that is now letting him cook like we all wanted to see. This offense just feels virtually unstoppable right now. I will say the defense has lots of question marks. I like that you have Jamal Adams out there, but this pass rush is a major concern right now. But if Russell keeps playing like this, it's just probably not going to matter. This was my Super Bowl team out of the NFC this year, and that's looking pretty good so far. Then we got a tier gap up into the top 2 here. We got the Ravens at 2, Chiefs at 1. We get to see this game on Monday night, and the winner's going to emerge with that number 1 spot. I mean, we know how good these teams are. Lamar has been just incredible this season. He's answering a lot of criticisms about can his offense exist without the triple option. I'm like mocking myself here because I said a lot of that last year, but he has blown me away with his accuracy across the field this year. That criticism of Lamar needs to get completely put to rest. I mean, he's a very accurate quarterback at worst at this stage in his career. His processor's only going to continue to develop, and God, he's just terrifying. This defense is playing lights out, and I can't wait to see him go head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes. What a comeback that was. Very predictable comeback. I hope you guys were with me on Twitter when they were down by a couple scores, and I said it's a great time to bet on the Chiefs on the money line, and they came back and won. So, I mean, this is going to be the game, a regular season game for the ages. Can't wait to watch it. And that is going to conclude the Week 3 NFL Power Rankings. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you have a good rest of your week. We'll see you tomorrow for the video podcast. May or may not be live here on YouTube. And then we got Patreon picks on Thursday, studs and duds following that. Maybe Thursday night, Friday, we'll see. But thank you for watching. Please do hit that like button. Cheers, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out.